Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Deku was trained with the Majima Everywhere system. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The sun was setting over Mizurufu, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and bleeding orange. It was the kind of sunset poets wrote about, the kind that signaled the end of a long day, and the promise of rest. For Izuku Midoriya, it looked like the end of the world. He walked with a shuffle, his yellow backpack feeling heavier than the laws of physics should allow. It wasn't the books. It was the weight of a scorched notebook, ruined dreams, and words that felt like shrapnel in his chest. If you want to be a hero that badly, there's a quick way to do it. Take a swan dive off the roof of the building and pray for a quirk in your next life. Izuku stopped walking. He stared at his red sneakers against the gray asphalt. The words echoed in his skull, bouncing around with a cruel, metallic ring. Katsuki Bakugo, Kaken, had always been rough. He had always been mean. But today felt different. Today, the cruelty had been casual, tossed over a shoulder like a candy wrapper. Stupid Kaken, Izuku whispered, his voice cracking. If I actually jumped, that would be instigation of suicide. You couldn't get into UA with that on your record. He tried to summon a flicker of anger, a spark of indignation, but there was nothing. The tank was empty. He was quirkless. In a world where 80% of the population could breathe fire, float, or turn their fingers into USB drives, Izuku was a relic of a biological past. He was the appendix of humanity, useless, prone to causing pain, and easily removed. He turned into the underpass. It was a shortcut home, a dark tunnel that smelled of stagnant water and exhaust fumes. Usually Izuku would run through here, his overactive imagination conjuring villains in the shadows. Today, he walked slowly. What was the point of running? I'm sorry, young man. Without a quirk. I cannot say that you can become a hero. That had been the final nail. All Might. The symbol of peace. The man whose smile had kept Izuku going for 10 years. Even he had looked at Izuku with pity in those sunken, shadowed eyes and told him to be realistic. To be a police officer. To be helpful, but not super. Izuku let out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. Realistic. Yeah. I should be realistic. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the notebook. Hero Analysis for the Future, number 13. The cover was charred black, smelling of nitroglycerin. He should throw it away. He should toss it into the drainage ditch and never look back. Slork. The sound was wet and heavy, coming from the sewer grate behind him. Izuku froze. The hair on the back of his neck stood up, a primal instinct screaming that something predatory was near. He turned slowly. Fluid. Green, viscous, foul-smelling fluid was oozing out of the manhole cover, defying gravity, piling up into a mound of sludge. Two manic, yellow eyes popped open within the muck. A medium-sized invisibility cloak. The sludge gurgled, its voice wet and distorted. Izuku took a step back, his legs trembling. Villain? You'll do, the sludge hissed. It lunged. It was too fast. Izuku turned to run, but the fluid was like a tidal wave. It crashed over him, cold and suffocating. It forced its way into his nose, his mouth, down his throat. I can't breathe. Don't struggle, kid. The villain whispered right into his ear, the voice vibrating through the slime filling his ear canal. It'll only hurt for about 45 seconds. I just need to hide inside you. I need a skin suit. Izuku clawed at the slime. His fingers sank uselessly into the liquid body. It was like trying to punch water. He couldn't get a grip. His vision began to blur. The edges of the world were turning black. Is this it? Izuku thought, panic giving way to a cold, dark acceptance. Is this how I die? Not saving anyone. Not fighting back. Just drowning in sewage in a dark tunnel? You're a real lifesaver, the villain mocked. Thanks for the ride. Izuku's strength faded. His arms went limp. The scorched notebook slipped from his fingers and hit the pavement with a dull slap. I'm sorry, Mom. Just as Izuku's consciousness began to sever, a sound echoed through the tunnel. It wasn't the booming voice of All Might. It wasn't the siren of a police car. It was the sound of metal grinding against metal, followed by a rhythmic, metallic tapping, clang, clang, clang. The voice was raspy, high-pitched, and dripping with an accent Izuku couldn't quite place, something harsh and rolling, like gravel in a blender. The sludge villain paused, his liquid body stiffening. Who's there? Get lost. I'm busy. Busy? The voice scoffed. It was getting closer. Bullying a kid in a sewer tunnel? That ain't busy, pal. That's just sad. From the shadows of the tunnel entrance, a silhouette emerged. It was a man, lean and wiry. He wore a flashy snakeskin jacket that seemed to glow under the flickering fluorescent lights, no shirt underneath, revealing a chest defined by corded muscle. Leather pants. Steel-toed shoes. But it was the face that terrified the sludge villain. The man had a sharp jawline, a chaotic goatee, and an eye patch over his right eye. His remaining eye was wide, wild, and burning with a terrifying mixture of amusement and violence. He was holding a metal baseball bat, tapping it against his shoulder. Get lost, weirdo! The sludge villain roared, sending a tendril of slime whipping toward the stranger. I'll kill you too. The stranger didn't flinch. He didn't assume a combat stance. He just danced, with a pirouette that would have made a ballerina jealous. The one-eyed man spun, the slime tendril missing his nose by a millimeter. He came out of the spin with a cackle. Is that it? The man yelled, throwing his arms wide. Come on! Give it some heat! He sprinted. He didn't run like a hero, chest out, strides measured. He ran like a predator, low to the ground, the bat dragging behind him, sparking against the concrete. Die! The sludge villain panicked, expanding his body, trying to engulf the tunnel to crush this new threat. Batter up! The man screamed. The man leaped. He twisted in the air, his body contorting, and swung the bat with enough force to generate a shockwave. Crack! The metal bat connected with the sludge villain's eye. Physics in the world of quirks usually dictated that slime would absorb the impact. But there was something about this swing, a raw, kinetic brutality that ignored the laws of quirks. The force ripple tore through the slime. Gaia! The villain shrieked, his concentration shattering. The hold on Izuku loosened. Izuku fell to his knees, coughing up sludge, gasping for sweet, precious air. He looked up, vision swimming, to see his savior. The man landed in a crouch, spun the bat in his hand, and pointed it at the villain. A purple aura seemed to flare around him, ghostly and terrifying. My turn, the man grinned. His teeth were bared. Mad dog style. The villain tried to reform, but the man was already moving. He dropped the bat and pulled a dagger from somewhere. Maybe his shoe. Maybe thin air. He moved like smoke, a blur of black leather and snakeskin. He was inside the villain's guard instantly. He wasn't punching the slime. He was cutting the air pressure around it, moving with such ferocity that the wind from his strikes was blowing the slime apart. Aura, 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 aura! The man delivered a spinning kick that looked like a breakdance move, his heel connecting with a solid chunk of the villain's sludge, sending the globs splattering against the tunnel wall. Wait! I'm fluid! You can't hurt me! The villain cried, though he sounded unsure. Fluid? The man stopped, tilting his head. So you're like a really nasty jelly drink? I am a villain! The man grabbed a nearby rusted bicycle that had been abandoned in the tunnel. He didn't check if it was usable. He simply lifted it over his head with one hand. Then drink this. He smashed the bicycle down onto the villain. It wasn't a heroic smash. It was a street brawl smash. He began to stomp, his steel-toed shoes moving in a blur. Every stomp was punctuated by a manic laugh. Yart! Izuku watched, paralyzed. This wasn't a fight. This was a mugging. The villain, who had seconds ago been an unstoppable force of nature, was being dismantled by a man with a dagger and a bad attitude. The villain saw an opening. He abandoned the idea of a skin suit. He needed to escape. He surged past the man's legs, shooting out of the tunnel like a geyser, heading toward the shopping district. Ah, hell no! The one-eyed man yelled. He retrieved his bat. Get back here, Kiryu-chan! Wait, force of habit. Get back here, slimeball! He looked back at Izuku, who was wiping slime from his eyes. The man's single eye bore into Izuku. It wasn't pity. It was scrutiny. Kid. You alive? I think so, Izuku wheezed. Good. Don't die. Dying's boring. The man turned and sprinted after the villain, cackling into the sunset. Izuku sat there for a moment, the silence of the tunnel returning. He looked at his hands. They were trembling. I survived. But then, the realization hit him. That villain was heading toward town. Where there were people. I have to go. Despite his legs feeling like jelly, despite the fear gripping his heart, Izuku stood up. He grabbed his backpack. He grabbed his charred notebook. And he ran toward the sound of the laughter. By the time Izuku reached the Tatooine shopping district, it was chaos. Fires were burning. Explosions rattled the windows of nearby shops. A crowd had gathered, held back by police tape and struggling heroes. Izuku pushed his way to the front. His breath hitched. The sludge villain was there. He had found a new hostage. Explosions popped from the captive's hands. Blonde, spiky hair. A look of pure, unadulterated rage mixed with terror. Kaken. The villain had cornered himself in an alleyway, using Bakugo's explosive quirk to keep the heroes at bay. Death Arms, Kamui Woods, Empty Lady, they were all there, but they were hesitating. There's no space. I can't get close to the fire. We have to wait for someone with a suitable quirk. Izuku watched Bakugo struggle. The slime was covering his mouth, suffocating him just like it had done to Izuku. Bakugo's eyes met Izuku's in the crowd. They weren't arrogant now. They were pleading, "Help me." Izuku's legs moved before his brain could process the danger. He ducked under the police tape. "Hey! Get back here, kid!" Death Arms shouted. Izuku didn't listen. He sprinted toward the monster. He didn't have a plan. He didn't have a quirk. All he had was the desperate need to save the person who had told him to kill himself just hours ago. "You again?" The sludge villain roared, seeing the green-haired boy charging. Izuku cocked his arm back. He remembered his notes. Aim for the eyes. Whatever is solid. Let him go! Izuku screamed. He swung his backpack. It flew through the air, the heavy textbooks inside acting as a projectile. The bag slammed into the villain's eye. Gah! The slime recoiled. It gave Bakugo a split second to breathe. Deku? Izuku clawed at the slime, trying to dig Bakugo out. Kaken! I couldn't just stand there and watch you die. You're dead meat, kid! The sludge villain recovered. He raised a massive tentacle of slime, ready to crush both boys into paste. I'll squash you like a bug. Izuku flinched, bracing for the impact. Wham! A metal trash can sailed through the air, seemingly from the heavens, and collided with the villain's head with a deafening gong sound. The crowd went silent. The heroes froze. From atop a telephone pole, perched like a gargoyle in snakeskin, was the man. Found ya! He screeched. He leaped. He didn't use a quirk to slow his fall. He just fell, spinning in midair. He landed directly on top of the sludge villain's main body, his steel-toed shoes driving into the muck. Who the hell is this guy? Kamui Wood shouted. The man ignored the heroes. He ignored Bakugo. He grabbed the sludge villain by the eye sockets, or what passed for them. You run fast for a snot rag, the man growled. But nobody outruns Goro Majima. Majima. The name didn't ring a bell for anyone. He wasn't in the hero registry. The villain tried to explode using Bakugo's quirk. Get off me! Majima leaned back and headbutted the sludge. It shouldn't have worked. It should have just been messy. But the sheer violence of the motion seemed to stun the villain. Explosions? Ooh, flashy. Majima grinned. He looked down at Bakugo, who was still trapped. Oi, Sparky. You gonna let this booger wear you like a cheap suit? Where's your guts? Bakugo blinked, confused by the insult. Ha! Use your legs, idiot! Majima shouted. He then did something insane. He reached into the sludge, ignored the explosions popping against his bare chest, grabbed Bakugo by the collar of his school uniform, and heaved. With a grunt of exertion that sounded like a feral bark, Majima ripped Bakugo out of the slime like he was pulling a weed. He tossed the explosive teen aside carelessly. Bakugo rolled across the pavement, coughing. Now it was just Majima and the sludge. All right, Majima cracked his neck. He pulled out the baseball bat from behind his back. Let's dance. What followed wasn't a hero capturing a villain. It was a beatdown. Majima moved with a chaotic rhythm. He swung the bat low, sweeping the slime's base. He spun, swinging high. He incorporated breakdancing flares, kicking the liquid apart every time it tried to reform. Breaker style. Majima dropped to the ground, spinning on his back, his legs becoming a whirlwind of kicks. He created a vortex of air that pushed the sludge back against the wall. The villain was terrified. This man wasn't attacking a weak point. He was attacking every point. Smash! Majima yelled, leaping up and bringing the bat down with a two-handed overhead swing. Crack! The sludge villain splattered. Completely. He was reduced to puddles on the sidewalk, unconscious from the sheer shock of the impact. Majima stood panting, his chest heaving. He wiped a stray splatter of slime off his jacket. He looked around at the silent crowd. The heroes were staring with their mouths open. The civilians were filming. Majima struck a pose, peace sign over his eye. Whatever. Suddenly, the wind pressure changed. I am here! All Might landed. He was late. He looked around, fists clenched, ready to smash the villain, only to see the puddles and the man in the snakeskin jacket lighting a cigarette. All Might said, blinking. It seems, the situation is resolved, the crowd erupted. Who is that? Is he a new pro? He beat the villain without a quirk. Majima looked at All Might. He squinted his one eye. You're big, he noted. Too much smiling. Creepy. Before the police could move in to question the vigilante, Majima looked at Izuku. The boy was sitting on the ground, staring at Majima with awe. Majima pointed the bat at Izuku. You. Greenie. Izuku pointed at himself. And me? Yeah, you. You got guts. Stupid guts, but guts. Majima grinned, a flash of gold tooth visible. I like that. Police sirens wailed closer. Majima sked. Buzzkills are here. He threw a smoke bomb. Not a ninja smoke bomb, but literally just a firework he seemingly pulled out of his pocket. It exploded in a cloud of purple smoke. When the smoke cleared, Goro Majima was gone. The aftermath was a blur. The heroes scolded Izuku for being reckless. They praised Bakugo for his bravery and his powerful quirk. Izuku stood there, taking the scolding, nodding his head, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about the man. The man who fought without fire or ice or super strength. The man who fought with a bat and a dagger in sheer, unadulterated madness. He didn't have a quirk. I didn't see one. He just hit him. Izuku walked home as the stars came out. The adrenaline was fading, leaving him exhausted. He felt heavy again. The praise Bakugo received, compared to the scolding he got, reinforced the reality. I'm still useless. Deku! Izuku turned. Bakugo was running up behind him. He looked angry. I didn't ask for your help. And I didn't need that eye patch freak's help either. Bakugo yelled, his voice raw. I was fine. Don't look down on me. You're just a quirkless pebble. Bakugo turned and stomped away. Izuku sighed. You're welcome, Kaken. He continued his walk. He just wanted to go home, eat his mom's katsudon, and sleep for a week. He turned the corner to his street. It was quiet. The street lights flickered. Yo! Izuku jumped, nearly dropping his backpack. Sitting on top of a vending machine, casually drinking a can of coffee, was Goro Majima. Why you? Izuku squeaked. The sludge guy. Name's Majima, the man said, hopping down. He landed silently, which was disturbing for a man wearing leather shoes. Goro Majima. But you can call me Majima no Nizan. Nizan? Big brother? Izuku stammered. Thank you for saving me. Twice. Majima tossed the empty can into a recycling bin without looking. It went in perfectly. I didn't do it for you. I hate slime. Gets in the leather. Majima walked around Izuku, circling him like a shark. He leaned in close, sniffing. You smell like fear. And burned paper. And disappointment. Izuku flinched. I know. Why'd you run in there? Majima asked, his voice suddenly losing its manic edge, becoming low and serious. You got no powers. I saw you. You're empty. Izuku looked at his feet. My legs, they just moved. I couldn't watch him die. I know I'm weak. I know I can't be a hero. Everyone tells me that. Even All Might told me that. All Might? Majima scoffed. The big smiley guy. What does he know about fighting? He's the #1 hero. He punches things hard, Majima dismissed with a wave of his hand. That's easy. Being strong when you're strong is easy. Being strong when you're weak? That's the trick. Majima stopped in front of Izuku. He crouched down so they were eye level. The single eye stared deep into Izuku's soul. I saw you, kid. You were shaking. You were crying. You were terrified. I know. But you still swung that backpack. Majima poked Izuku in the chest. That's the mad dog spirit. You're crazy. Stupid. Reckless. Majima grinned, and it was the scariest, most reassuring thing Izuku had ever seen. You got the eyes of a dragon, kid. But right now, you're just a koi fish flopping in the mud. A fish? Yeah. A weak little fish. Majima stood up and dusted off his pants. But legend says if a koi swims up a waterfall, it turns into a dragon. Majima leaned close to Izuku's face. I'm gonna be your waterfall. Izuku blinked. What? I'm bored, Majima declared loudly to the empty street. This city is boring. The villains are boring. The heroes are boring. So I'm gonna make my own entertainment. I'm gonna train you. Train me? Izuku's heart skipped a beat. To be a hero? To be a monster, Majima corrected. To be the kind of guy who doesn't need a fancy quirk to kick ass. I'm gonna teach you how to fight dirty. How to use everything. Trash cans. Bicycles. Umbrellas. Your own teeth. Majima put a hand on Izuku's shoulder. His grip was like iron. I'm gonna put you through hell, Izuku-chan. And when I'm done with you, you won't be Deku. You'll be the mad dog of UA. Izuku stared at him. It was insane. This man was clearly unhinged. He was a vigilante. He was violent. But he was also the first person, the only person, who had looked at quirkless Izuku and seen potential. He didn't say be a policeman. He said be a dragon. Tears pricked Izuku's eyes. He wiped them away furiously. I want to be strong. I want to save people with a smile. We can work on the smile, Majima said, making a grotesque face. But first, we gotta fix those noodle arms. Majima turned and started walking toward Izuku's apartment building. Wait! Where are you going? Izuku asked, jogging to keep up. Dinner, Majima said. I'm starving. And I bet your mom cooks good food. My mom? Wait, you can't just. 10 minutes later, Izuku opened the door to his apartment. Mom! I'm home. Please don't freak out, but Izuku stopped. His jaw dropped. In the kitchen, Inko Midoriya was laughing. She was sitting at the dining table, a glass of water in front of her, looking happier than she had in months. Standing at the stove, wearing a pink apron that said "Kiss the Cook" over his snakeskin jacket and shirtless chest, was Goro Majima. He was expertly flipping a stir-fry in a wok. Ah, Izuku-chan! Majima yelled, not turning around. Wash your hands! Dinner's almost ready. We're having Majima-style fried rice. Oh, Izuku! Inko beamed, her cheeks flushed. This nice young man said he's your new trainer. He's so funny. And look at his knife skills. He chopped the onions so fast I couldn't even see the blade. Izuku looked from his mother to the Yakuza legend in his kitchen. He broke into our house? Izuku whispered. I knocked. Majima defended, pointing a spatula at him. With my foot. Hard. Anyway, sit down. We got a lot to discuss. Tomorrow, we start the Majima Everywhere system. The what? Don't worry about it, Majima cackled, plating the food with a flourish. Just know that from now on, nowhere is safe. School? I'll be there. Bathroom? I'll be there. Sleeping? Maybe I'll be there. He set a steaming plate of rice in front of Izuku. It smelled heavenly. Eat up, kid, Majima whispered, his voice dropping to a menacing growl. You're gonna need the calories. Izuku looked at the food, then at his mom, then at the one-eyed man. He picked up his chopsticks. For the first time in his life, Izuku Midoriya didn't feel like a victim. He felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, and Goro Majima was waiting to push him off. And for the first time, Izuku was ready to fall. He took a bite. It's really good, Izuku mumbled. Of course it is. Majima struck a pose. I'm the Lord of the Night, baby. Outside the window, unnoticed by the happy trio, a tall, skeletal figure with blonde hair watched from the shadows of the street lamp. All Might coughed, wiping blood from his mouth. Who is that man? All Might whispered to himself, trembling slightly. And why do I feel like young Midoriya is in safer, yet significantly more dangerous hands? All Might turned and vanished into the night, leaving the mad dog to raise his pup. The training had begun. Omake, the notebook. Later that night, after Majima had left, by jumping off the balcony, Izuku sat at his desk. He pulled out the Charred Hero Analysis number 13. He opened a fresh page. He hesitated, then wrote a new entry. Entry 14, The Mad Dog. Name, Goro Majima. Quirk, unknown, none? Physical enhancement? Hammer space? Strengths, unpredictable. Insane speed. Weapon mastery, bat/dagger. Psychological warfare. Weaknesses, gets distracted easily. Obsessed with someone named Kiryu. Note, he moves like water, but hits like a truck. He calls it style switching. If I can analyze this, if I can learn how to switch my mindset like he switches styles, maybe I don't need a quirk. Izuku looked at his hand. He clenched it into a fist. He mimicked the crazy laugh, quietly. Heh, it sounded terrible. He had a long way to go. The garbage of Dagoba Municipal Beach Park didn't smell like trash anymore to Izuku Midoriya. It smelled like fear. It had been 2 weeks since the sludge villain incident. 2 weeks since Izuku had stared into the single, manic eye of Goro Majima and agreed to become a dragon. 2 weeks of waking up screaming because he thought he heard the jingle of steel-toed boots in his closet. The sun was barely rising, painting the mounds of scrap metal and old tires in long, distorted shadows. Izuku stood in the center of a clearing he had carved out near the waterline. He was shirtless, wearing only gym shorts and a pair of beat-up sneakers. He was trembling, but not from the cold. He was waiting for the noise. Kshhh ping. The sound was faint. A sensor. A radar. A sixth sense that Izuku had developed out of pure survival instinct. It was a high-pitched whine in the back of his skull that signaled he was near. Gotcha now, Izuku-chan. The pile of rusted refrigerators to his left exploded. There was no warning. No monologue. Just a blur of snakeskin and laughter. Goro Majima burst from inside a Kenmore fridge like a jack-in-the-box from hell, wielding a blue plastic recycling bin as a weapon. Morning workout. Majima screeched, swinging the bin. Izuku didn't scream. He didn't have time. His body, conditioned by 14 days of non-stop ambushes, reacted on autopilot. He dropped low, his knees scraping the sand, and rolled forward. The blue bin whistled over his head, missing him by inches. Too slow! Majima yelled, landing in a crouch. He spun, sweeping his leg out. Izuku jumped, tucking his knees to his chest. I dodged it, Majima-san. Dodging is for cowards. Blocking is for statues. Majima cackled. He didn't stop moving. He grabbed a rusted toaster from the sand and hurled it. Attacking is for winners. Izuku caught the toaster. It was heavy, wet and gross. Thug style. He shouted, his voice cracking. He didn't throw it back. He charged. This was the first lesson of the Majima Everywhere system. Use what you got. If you have a toaster, you are now a toaster user. Izuku swung the appliance. Majima sidestepped lazily, his hands in his pockets, a grin splitting his face. He watched the toaster sail past his ear. Sloppy form, Majima critiqued. You're swinging with your arm. Swing with your hips. Like you're dancing with a pretty lady. Or beating a debt collector. Same hip motion. Majima lashed out with a backhand slap. It wasn't a punch, it was a disrespectfully casual slap. It connected with Izuku's chest, sending the boy tumbling backward into a pile of wet cardboard. Again. Majima barked, suddenly serious. The playfulness vanished for a split second, replaced by the aura of the mad dog. Get up. The world ain't gonna wait for you to catch your breath. Izuku groaned, pushing himself up. Sand clung to his sweaty skin. He spat out a grain of plastic. He looked at Majima. I'm up, Izuku panted. Good. Majima's grin returned, sharp and terrifying. Now, move that truck tire to the other side of the beach. If you drop it, I break your fingers. Kidding. Maybe. The observer, watching from the seawall, hidden behind a vending machine, was a skeleton of a man. Tashinori Yagi, All Might, clutched a grocery bag containing a bento box he had intended to give to the young boy. He had been watching for 3 days. He had meant to approach young Midoriya sooner. After the sludge villain incident, All Might had done his research. He saw the boy's bravery. He saw the potential. He had decided that this quirkless boy, who moved before thinking to save another, was worthy of one for all. But he couldn't get a word in edgewise because of the maniac in the eye patch. What is happening? All Might whispered, horrified. He watched as Izuku struggled to lift a massive truck tire. The boy's muscles were straining, veins popping in his neck. It was a good workout. Standard strength training. Then the man, Majima, jumped onto the tire while Izuku was holding it. Mush! Mush! Majima yelled, riding the tire like a horse while Izuku buckled under the added weight. He's going to kill him, All Might gasped. I have to intervene. All Might transformed. Buff form. Steam rising from his skin. The symbol of peace stepped out from behind the vending machine, his smile dazzling even in the early morning light. I am here! All Might announced, booming voice echoing off the trash heaps. Young man! I have come to. Shut up! Majima yelled, throwing an empty soda can. It hit All Might in the forehead. Pink. It bounced off harmlessly, but the sheer audacity froze the number one hero in his tracks. Majima hopped off the tire and glared at All Might with his single eye. Can't you see we're busy? We're building character. And lats. Mostly lats. All Might deflated slightly. I see. But I wish to speak to young Midoriya about his future. His future is lifting this tire, Majima declared. He turned to Izuku, who was staring at All Might with wide, worshipful eyes, the tire threatening to crush his toes. Don't look at him. Look at the path. If you drop that, I'm adding another tire. Why yes, Majima Nizan! Izuku squeaked. He hoisted the tire higher and began to waddle down the beach, ignoring his idol. All Might stood there stunned. The boy had ignored him. The fanboy had ignored him. Majima walked up to All Might, pulling a pack of cigarettes from his leather pants. He looked the giant hero up and down. You got a lot of muscle, big guy, Majima said, lighting a smoke. But you look stiff. Like a statue. If you fight like a statue, the pigeons are gonna crap on you. I assure you, I am quite capable, All Might said, trying to regain his composure. Who are you? Are you a registered trainer? Trainer? Nah. Majima blew smoke in a ring. I'm just a guy passing by. A guy who knows a diamond in the rough when he sees one. That kid? He's got guts. But guts ain't enough. He needs style. Style? Yeah. The kind of style that says I'm gonna beat you up, and I'm gonna look fabulous doing it. Majima laughed, a sound like grinding gears. You heroes, you're all about justice and peace. Boring. Fighting is about passion. It's about the heat of the moment. Majima suddenly spun around and threw a dagger. It buried itself in a wooden post 3 inches from Izuku's nose as he walked by. Keep your head up! Majima shouted. Thank you? Izuku yelled back, terrified. All Might watched in horror. Please stop throwing knives at the child. Make me, Majima winked. Then he vanished. Literally. He just stepped behind a pile of trash and was gone. All Might stood alone on the beach. He looked at the bento box in his hand. He looked at Izuku, who was now weeping while squatting with the tire. I will come back later, All Might decided. He needed to rethink his approach. Month 2, the Officer Majima incident. School was a nightmare, but not because of Bakugo. Bakugo had actually become quiet. He was unnerved. Every time he went to yell at Deku, Izuku would flinch, but then his eyes would dart around the room, scanning the vents, the windows, the trash cans. It was the look of a hunted animal, and it creeped Bakugo out. Walking home was the real challenge. Izuku was walking past the local police box. He kept his head down, clutching his backpack straps. "Halt, citizen!" Izuku froze. The voice was deep, authoritative, and completely fake. Standing in front of the Koban was Majima. He was wearing a police uniform that was 2 sizes too small. The sleeves were ripped off to show his tattoos. He was wearing the police cap sideways. He was twirling a nightstick. "Officer Majima, on patrol," he announced. "Majima-san," Izuku sighed, his shoulders slumping. "People are watching." "Is that a real uniform?" "Suspicious behavior." Majima blew a whistle. "You look like you're carrying contraband." "What's in the bag, son?" "Drugs? Weapons? Illegal energetic drinks?" "It's textbooks." "Math. Math? That's the most dangerous drug of all." Majima lunged. "I'm gonna have to confiscate your freedom." "Please, not here," Izuku begged. "Search and seizure." Majima swung the nightstick. Izuku didn't run. He dropped his bag. Thug style. Majima had taught him that thug style was about aggression and resilience. It was about taking a hit to give a hit. Izuku caught the nightstick with his bare hand. It stung, vibrating up his arm, but he held on. "Resisting arrest?" Majima looked delighted. "That's a felony. That means I can use excessive force." Majima let go of the stick and did a cartwheel, pulling a collapsible baton from his belt. He struck low. Izuku jumped, landing on a nearby park bench. "You have the right to remain silent," Majima shouted, kicking the bench over. Izuku tumbled onto the grass. He scrambled up, grabbing a handful of dirt. "Pocket sand!" Izuku yelled, throwing the dirt. It was a dirty move. A coward's move. A villain's move. It hit Majima right in the eye patch. "Gah! My eye! The good one!" Majima stumbled back, rubbing his face. Izuku froze. "Oh my God, I'm sorry!" "Majima-san, are you okay?" Majima stopped rubbing his eye. He lowered his hand. He was smiling. A genuine, proud smile. "Dirty," Majima whispered. "Very dirty. I taught you well." He suddenly tackled Izuku, putting him in a headlock. "But never apologize for winning, you little knucklehead. If it works, it works. Now, give me 20 push-ups right here on the sidewalk. Go!" As Izuku did push-ups on the pavement, while Officer Majima critiqued his form, passers-by gave them a wide berth. They assumed it was some sort of avant-garde street performance. Month 4, enter Goromi and the breaker style. The beach was halfway clean. The mounds of trash were receding, revealing the golden sand beneath. Izuku's body was changing. The baby fat was gone, replaced by lean, whipcord muscle. His hands were calloused. He walked with a lower center of gravity, but he was hitting a wall. He was small. Majima was wiry but strong. Izuku was just small. "You're stiff," Majima said one evening. They were by the water. The sunset was turning the ocean blood red. "I'm trying," Izuku panted. He was bruising all over. "But when I try to block your heavy attacks, I just get crushed." "That's because you're trying to be a wall." "You ain't a wall, Izuku. You're a pebble." "Thanks, but a pebble can skip across the water, right?" Majima grinned. "Tonight, we go into the city. Wear something nice." "A date?" Izuku asked, confused. "Yeah. With Destiny." They ended up in the entertainment district. Neon lights, loud music, the smell of yakitori and perfume. Majima led Izuku to a hostess club. "Majima-san, I'm 15. I can't be here." "Relax. We ain't customers. We're staff." Majima pushed Izuku into a dressing room. "Put this on." 10 minutes later, Izuku stood in the alleyway behind the club. He was not wearing a dress, thankfully. He was wearing a flashy, sequined vest and loose parachute pants. "What is this?" "Breaker style," Majima announced. He stepped out of the shadows. Izuku choked. Majima was wearing a dress. A pink dress. A blonde wig. Heavy makeup. Call me Garomi, Majima said in a falsetto voice, batting his eyelashes. I have so many questions. Shut up and dance, Majima, Garomi, attacked. But this wasn't the brute force of the thug style. Garomi was spinning. He was on the ground, legs flaring in a windmill, then popping up into a handstand kick. It was breakdancing. It was fluid, unpredictable, and fast. Izuku tried to block and was immediately swept off his feet. Don't block! Garomi shouted, spinning on his head. Flow! You're small. Use that. If a big guy swings at you, you don't stop it. You spin under it. You use the momentum. Majima kicked a trash can toward Izuku. Music! Feel the beat. Majima hummed a techno track aggressively. Dun 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 dun! Izuku tried to mimic the movements. He felt ridiculous. He felt stupid. He tried to spin on his back and just got dizzy. You're thinking too much. Majima scolded, delivering a high kick that stopped an inch from Izuku's nose. Stop analyzing. Stop muttering. Let the rhythm take over. Izuku closed his eyes. He listened to the city. The traffic. The distant bass of the club. The whir of Majima's dress tearing through the air. Don't fight the force. Ride it. Majima swept low. Izuku didn't brace. He threw his weight backward, catching himself on his hands, and kicked his legs out. His sneaker connected with Majima's wig, knocking it askew. Izuku landed in a pose, one hand on the ground, legs splayed. Oh ho! Majima straightened his wig. Not bad, Izuku-chan. Not bad at all. But can you keep the beat? For the next 3 hours, they had a dance battle in the alleyway. By the end of it, Izuku was exhausted, nauseous from spinning, and covered in alley grime. But he understood. He wasn't a wall. He was a cyclone. Month 6, the zombie nightmare. This was the turning point. This was when Izuku Midoriya stopped being a nervous boy and started becoming something else. It was a Saturday. Izuku had planned to study for English. Majima had other plans. Izuku woke up to his room being pitch black. The windows were boarded up. Brayans, a groan from the hallway. Izuku opened his door. Mom? Inko was gone. She was actually at a spa day Majima had paid for. Standing in the hallway was Majima. His skin was painted green. He was walking with a stiff, shambling gait. Zombie Majima! He moaned. Is this a new style? Izuku asked tiredly. Must eat. Deku. Majima lunged. But unlike a slow zombie, he moved with terrifying, jagged speed. He didn't punch, he bit. He clawed. He grabbed Izuku's ankles and tried to drag him into the underworld, the bathroom. Get off! Izuku kicked him away, scrambling back. No escape! Zombie Majima hissed. Endurance test. The horde never sleeps. Neither do you. For 24 hours, Majima did not break character. He chased Izuku through the house. He chased him through the streets. He chased him through the park. Every time Izuku sat down, Zombie Majima would burst out of a bush or drop from a tree. Izuku couldn't sleep. He couldn't eat peacefully. By hour 20, Izuku was hallucinating. The world was a blur of green paint and groans. He was cornered in the park. He was exhausted. His legs gave out. Brains. Majima loomed over him. Something snapped in Izuku. The fear vanished, replaced by a sheer, primal irritation. Izuku stood up. His eyes were bloodshot. A faint, green electricity seemed to crackle around him. Not a quirk, but pure bioelectricity born of rage. I have a math test on Monday, Izuku screamed. He didn't use thug style. He didn't use breaker style. He used pure adrenaline. He grabbed a park bench, bolted to the ground, and ripped it out of the concrete. Stay dead. Izuku swung the bench. Majima's eyes widened. He broke character for a split second to perform a tiger drop, a counter move that absorbed the impact. Crunch. The bench shattered against Majima's guard. The force sent the zombie sliding back 10 feet, leaving furrows in the grass. Silence. Majima stood up, dusting off his green face paint. He looked at the shattered bench. He looked at Izuku, who was panting, drooling slightly, eyes wild. Majima grinned. Heh. Finally grew some fangs, huh? Izuku passed out face first into the dirt. Majima walked over, picked the boy up gently, and carried him home. Rest up, kid. The real hell starts tomorrow. Month 9, the meeting of Titans. Dagoba Beach was clean. It was a miracle. The mountains of trash were gone. The golden sand sparkled. The ocean view was unobstructed. It was beautiful. Standing in the center of the beach, atop the very last pile of trash, a rusted pickup truck, was Izuku Midoriya. He was unrecognizable from the boy of 10 months ago. He wasn't bulky like a bodybuilder. He was compacted. Dense. His posture was loose, his hands hanging by his sides, but there was a tension there, like a coiled spring. He wore a green tracksuit that had seen better days, patched with duct tape. He had a bandage on his cheek. His eyes were sharp, constantly scanning. Impressive, a deep voice rumbled. Izuku turned. He didn't flinch. All Might stood there. This time, in his true skeletal form. He had decided that honesty was the best approach. All Might, Izuku said. His voice was deeper. Less squeaky. You have done incredible work, young Midoriya, All Might said, walking across the sand. I have watched you. From a distance. Mostly because your trainer threatened to throw a bicycle at me. He would have, Izuku nodded solemnly. He doesn't like interruptions. I can see that. All Might stopped a few feet away. I told you that you couldn't be a hero without a quirk. I may have been hasty. Izuku's eyes widened slightly. The mask of the mad dog slipped, revealing the fanboy underneath. Really? Yes. You have built a vessel. A strong one. A slightly terrifying one. All Might scratched his cheek. But a hero isn't just about fighting. It's about spirit. And you have developed a spirit that is undeniable. All Might took a breath. This was it. The moment. I possess a quirk that can be passed down. It is called One for All. It stockpiles power. And I want you to have it. Izuku stared. The wind blew through his hair. One. For all? Yes. It will give you the power to save everyone. To be the symbol of peace. Does it come with a knife? All Might blinked. No. Why would you? No. Majima-san says knives are practical. Majima-san is a lunatic. All Might shouted, losing his composure. Listen, my boy. This is the ultimate power. Super strength. Speed. Smashes. Izuku looked at his hands. Super strength. He thought about the ambush in the rain. He thought about the dance battle. He thought about the zombie nightmare. If I have that power, can I protect people? Like really protect them? Yes, All Might said softly. Then I'll take it. All Might beamed. He plucked a single golden hair from his head. Eat this. Izuku stared at the hair. That's it? That's the ceremony? It contains the DNA required to. Yo! Izuku! Majima's voice cut through the solemn moment. He was walking down the beach steps, carrying 2 convenience store bags. I got pork buns! And I found a really weird magazine in the trash. You gotta see this. Majima stopped. He looked at All Might holding out a hair. He looked at Izuku. What's going on? You feeding him hair? That's gross, skeleton man. It is the transfer of power. All Might defended. Majima walked over, sniffing the air. He looked at All Might. He looked at the hair. Then, a look of realization crossed his face. Oh ho, Majima smirked. So that's your game. You're giving him the juice, huh? The juice? All Might asked. The magic. The voodoo. The thing that makes you go boom. Majima mimed an explosion. It is called One for All. Majima shrugged. Whatever. Hey Izuku. Yes, Aniki? Majima walked up to him. He didn't hit him. He didn't throw him. He reached out and straightened Izuku's collar. You take that power, Majima said, his voice surprisingly gentle. But don't you dare forget what I taught you. Power makes you strong. But style makes you a legend. I won't forget, Izuku promised. Good. Majima slapped Izuku on the back, hard enough to knock the wind out of him. Now eat the hair. It's getting cold. And wash it down with this. Majima handed him a bottle of Stamina X. Izuku took the hair. He looked at All Might. He looked at Majima. The two most important figures in his life. The symbol of peace and the Lord of the Night. He swallowed the hair. He chugged the Stamina X. He felt weird. How do you feel? All Might asked anxiously. Izuku burped. Like I just ate hair. Give it time, All Might said. The entrance exam is in 1 month. We must prepare your body to handle the backlash. 1 month? Majima cracked his knuckles. Plenty of time. I haven't taught him slugger style yet. All Might paled. Slugger style? Majima pulled a metal bat out of the convenience store bag. Batter up, Izuku. If you can dodge a bat, you can dodge a giant robot. Wait! All Might yelled. Let him digest the DNA. Digestion is for the weak. Majima swung. Izuku didn't flinch. He ducked under the swing, grabbed a handful of sand, and threw it in All Might's face, accidentally of course. Pocket sand! My eyes! All Might screamed, clutching his face. Majima cackled. That's my boy. The sun rose higher over the clean beach. The training wasn't over. It was just evolving. And Izuku Midoriya was ready. He was no longer just a Deku. He was the Mad Dog's apprentice, and UA High School had absolutely no idea what was coming for them. The final encounter, before the exam. It was the night before the exam. Izuku was in his room, packing his bag. He heard the tap on his window. He opened it. Majima was hanging upside down from the roof gutter. Hey, Majima-san. Here. Majima tossed something into the room. It landed on the desk. It was a dagger. But not a real one. It was a prop dagger, made of rubber but weighted to feel real. And next to it, a snakeskin eye patch. I can't wear the eye patch, Shiniki. I need both eyes. It's for style. Majima huffed. Fine. Keep the knife. Use it if you run out of punches. Or if you just want to scare him. Thanks. Majima pulled himself up, sitting on the windowsill. He looked at Izuku. The boy was strong now. Confident. The fear was still there. It would always be there. But he knew how to use it now. You're gonna go to that fancy hero school, Majima said. They're gonna try to teach you rules. They're gonna tell you to be noble. To be stiff. I know. Don't let them bore you to death, Izuku. Majima grinned. Be wild. Be crazy. And if anyone gives you trouble, Izuku smiled. It was a small, sharp smile. A mirror of the one looking back at him. Smash them? Hell yeah. Majima jumped off the roof, vanishing into the night. Izuku picked up the rubber dagger. He spun it in his hand. He looked at his reflection in the mirror. He channeled the energy. The thug. The breaker. The mad dog. Let's get to the top, Izuku whispered. Tomorrow, the entrance exam. Tomorrow, the world would meet the new Deku. The morning of the UA entrance exam did not begin with a balanced breakfast, or a pep talk from a loving mother. It began with Izuku Midoriya Army crawling out of his bedroom window at 5 a.m. because he heard a rustling sound in the hallway that sounded suspiciously like a man in a snakeskin jacket trying to suppress a giggle. Izuku didn't verify the source. He didn't ask questions. He simply engaged the thug-style escape protocol. Exit the premises immediately. Ask questions never. He landed on the dew-slicked grass of his backyard, his breath misting in the cool February air. His body felt different today. It wasn't just the 10 months of lifting tires, dodging knives, and breakdancing in alleyways. It was the thing inside him, the hair, All Might's DNA. It sat in his stomach like a lead weight, a dormant singularity that felt less like a superpower and more like he had swallowed a grenade with the pin pulled halfway out. All Might had called it one for all. Majima had called it the juice. Right now, it just felt like indigestion. Izuku straightened his school uniform, the black gakurin that felt tight around his shoulders now. He checked his pockets. Pencils? Check. ID card? Check. A small, rubber-handled screwdriver he had found in the trash? Check. Majima had taught him that anything is a weapon if you hold it with enough conviction. He began the walk to the station. The world looked different to Izuku now. Before Majima, the walk to the station was a terrifying gauntlet of potential social interactions. Now, it was a tactical grid. Trash can on the left, potential ambush point. Hiding spot for a 160-pound man with a bat. Sewer grate, sludge villain territory, or Majima in a scuba suit. Vending machine, could be rigged to dispense flash grenades. He walked with a twitchy, erratic rhythm. His head snapped left then right. He spun around periodically to check his six. To the casual observer, he looked like a meth addict in a high school uniform. To a trained eye, he looked like a soldier with severe PTSD. Just get to the exam, Izuku muttered to himself, his thumb rubbing the handle of the screwdriver in his pocket. Just get to the exam. No ambushes. No zombies. No Garomi. He reached the train station without incident. He boarded the train. He stood in the corner, back against the wall, eyes scanning every passenger. A salaryman sneezed. Izuku flinched so hard he accidentally crushed the metal handrail he was holding. Crunch. The passengers stared. Izuku looked at the mangled steel tube in his hand. Sorry, he squeaked, bowing deeply. Defective rail. Very dangerous. I'll just stand over here. One for all is leaking, he thought, staring at his trembling hand. Or maybe that was just the fear. The gates of judgment. UA High School. The fortress of dreams. The golden campus where the greatest heroes were forged. Izuku stood at the massive main gates, looking up at the glass structures gleaming in the sun. For years, this sight would have made him weep with joy. Today, it made him suspicious. Too much open space, his brain analyzed. Sniper lines everywhere. No cover. Stupid Deku. The voice was low, guttural, and familiar. Izuku didn't jump. He didn't cower. His body simply shifted. His weight dropped into a lower stance, his right foot sliding back. He turned his head slowly. Katsuki Bakugo was walking past him, hands in his pockets, a scowl etched onto his face. But the scowl wavered. Bakugo's eyes narrowed as he looked at Izuku's stance. It wasn't the stance of a victim. It was the stance of someone expecting a fight. Get out of my way, Bakugo grumbled, though he had plenty of room to walk around. Good morning, Kaken, Izuku said. His voice wasn't the high-pitched whine Bakugo was used to. It was flat. Tired. Your shoelace is untied. Trip hazard. Bakugo looked down. His laces were fine. When he looked up, Izuku was already walking away, his gait a strange, shuffling stride that looked like a mix between a prowl and a dance. The hell is wrong with him? Bakugo muttered. He looks feral. Izuku continued toward the entrance. He was so focused on scanning the crowd for eye patches that he didn't notice his own foot catching on a slightly raised paving stone. He pitched forward. Gravity took hold. I'm falling. In the old days, Izuku would have flailed. He would have squeezed his eyes shut and waited for the impact. But the breaker-style reflex kicked in. As the ground rushed up to meet him, Izuku didn't brace for impact. He planted his palms on the pavement. In one fluid motion, he converted the fall into a handstand. He spun his legs in a wide arc, a flare, generating momentum. Whoa! A girl with a round face and brown bobbed hair had reached out to use her quirk on him, to stop his fall. She froze, her hand hovering in midair. Izuku completed the rotation, pushed off with his hands, and flipped upright, landing in a combat pose, knees bent, arms raised to guard his face, a low growl escaping his throat. Back off! Izuku hissed, eyes darting. The girl blinked. I was just going to stop you from tripping? Izuku blinked. The combat haze cleared. He looked at the girl. She was smiling, though looking a bit confused by his breakdancing recovery. Oh, Izuku said, straightening up and dusting off his hands. Right. Tripping. Bad luck. Thanks. I mean, you didn't touch me, but the thought counts. That was amazing. The girl chirped. Are you a gymnast? You spun on your head. Something like that, Izuku mumbled. I just have good balance. From dodging things. I'm Uraraka Ochako. She beamed. Good luck on the exam. Let's do our best. She waved and walked away. Izuku watched her go. She didn't try to hit me with a bat. Nice girl. The written exam. The written portion was grueling, but not because of the questions. Izuku had studied. He was smart. The problem was the silence. It was too quiet in the exam hall. Izuku sat at his desk, his leg bouncing up and down at a speed that threatened to ignite the floor. Every time a proctor walked by, Izuku would shield his paper with his arm and lean away, expecting a pat-down shakedown. He finished the exam in record time, mostly because he wanted to get out of the room before the ceiling tiles fell or the floor opened up. The orientation. Everybody say hey. President Mick's voice boomed through the auditorium speakers. It was loud. It was energetic. Izuku sat in the dark, his eyes adjusting to the low light. He liked the dark. It was easier to hide. Welcome to my live show. Everybody say HEY. Silence. Tough crowd. Mike shrugged. Izuku tapped his finger against the armrest. Rhythm. Tap. 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 He was trying to keep the heat in his chest from fading. Majima always said, if you get bored you get slow. If you get slow you get dead. President Mike began explaining the rules. 3 types of robots. Points based on difficulty. This is boring, Izuku muttered under his breath. It was a habit he picked up from Majima. Just tell us who to hit. Excuse me. A hand shot up in the row ahead of him. A tall boy with glasses and stiff posture stood up. The spotlight hit him. May I ask a question? The boy shouted, chopping the air with his hand. There appear to be 4 types of villains on this handout. If this is a misprint, then UA, the most prestigious school in Japan, should be ashamed of such a foolish error. The boy then turned around and pointed directly at Izuku. And you? The one with the curly hair. Izuku froze. Ambush. You've been muttering this whole time. It's distracting. If you're here to mess around, then leave immediately. The auditorium went silent. All eyes were on Izuku. In the past, Izuku would have apologized. He would have shrunk into his seat and wished for invisibility. But the phantom weight of a baseball bat in his hands felt real. The echo of Majima's cackle rang in his ears. Don't let him talk down to you, Izuku-chan. Bite back. Izuku stood up. He didn't look ashamed. He looked annoyed. He stared at the tall boy, Ida, with the dead, fish-like eyes of a Yakuza enforcer who had been interrupted during a karaoke session. I'm muttering, Izuku said, his voice carrying through the silence, because I'm analyzing the battlefield. You're shouting because you like the sound of your own voice. Who's really the distraction? The auditorium gasped. Ida looked stunned. He adjusted his glasses, mouth opening and closing. I am merely ensuring the integrity of this. Sit down, Four Eyes, Izuku said, channeling his inner thug. Before the teacher fails us both. Izuku sat back down, crossing his arms. Present Mike laughed nervously. Okay. Dig the enthusiasm, listener. Number 7111 is correct. The 4th robot is 0 points. It's an obstacle. A gimmick. If you see it, just run away. Run away, Izuku whispered. Right. Battle Center B. The bus ride to the testing grounds was tense. Izuku stood by the doors, stretching his calves. He was wearing his green tracksuit now, the one Majima had bought him. It had a dragon embroidered on the back, but the stitching was cheap, so it looked more like a confused lizard. He looked at the towering gates of Battle Center B. Behind them lay a mock city. A city, Izuku thought. Urban environment. Lots of alleys. Lots of verticality. Perfect. He looked around at the other examinees. They were all warming up their quirks. Some were shooting lasers. Some were growing extra arms. Izuku checked his pockets. No weapons allowed. He had been forced to leave his rubber screwdriver in the locker. He felt naked. I need a tool, he thought. Thug style needs a weapon. Slugger style needs a bat. Start. President Mick's voice screamed from the tower. What are you waiting for? There are no countdowns in real battles. Go! 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 The other students hesitated for a split second. Izuku did not. He exploded off the line. Rush style. He was fast. Not All Might fast, but fast in a way that looked unnatural. He ran low, arms pumping, weaving through the stunned students. First blood! Izuku yelled, a manic grin splitting his face. He breached the city limits first. He turned a corner and came face to face with the one-pointer. A robot the size of a car, rolling on a single wheel, targeting him with red eyes. Target acquired, the robot droned. Izuku didn't slow down. He scanned the environment. Trash can. Street sign. Bench. He saw it. Lying in a pile of construction debris near a half-finished building. A length of steel pipe. About 3 feet long. Rusted. Heavy. Perfect. Izuku slid on his knees, grabbing the pipe as he passed. The metal felt cold and reassuring in his grip. The robot lunged. Izuku pivoted on his heel. He didn't swing wildly. He adopted a stance. Feet wide. Pipe held over his shoulder like a baseball bat. Hips loose. He began to bob. A rhythmic, taunting sway. Batter up! Izuku cackled. Slugger style. The robot extended a mechanical arm. Izuku stepped inside the guard. He swung the pipe. Clang! The sound was beautiful. The pipe connected with the robot's visual sensor. The metal crumpled. Sparks showered down, but Izuku wasn't done. Aura! He spun, using the momentum of the first hit to deliver a second strike to the robot's wheel joint. The pipe dented the hydraulic piston. Aura! Aura! He began to laugh. It was a high-pitched, breathless sound. Mee! He hooked the pipe behind the robot's neck, or where a neck would be, and leaped, planting his feet on the robot's chest. He pulled. Crunch! The robot's head ripped free of its chassis. The machine sparked and died. 1 point! Izuku shouted, kicking the scrap metal. Next, the rampage. The next 10 minutes were a blur of violence that confused the hell out of the judges watching from the control room. Who is that kid? Midnight asked, leaning closer to the screen. He doesn't have an enhancement quirk listed. He's just hitting them. His technique is unorthodox, Cementos noted. Is he breakdancing? On the screen, Izuku was surrounded by 3 two-pointers. He wasn't overwhelmed. He was in his element. Izuku threw the pipe at the middle robot. It clanged off the metal casing, distracting it. Breaker style. Izuku dropped to the ground. He began a windmill spin, his legs sweeping out. He kicked the legs of the robots, knocking them off balance. As one robot fell, Izuku kipped up, grabbed the pipe from the ground, and switched back. Slugger style. He treated the falling robot's head like a T-ball. Wham! The head flew off and smashed into the second robot. Home run! Izuku cheered, doing a little victory shimmy. He was racking up points. 20, 30, 45. He moved through the city like a force of nature. He used wall runs. He used dumpsters to vault over lasers. At one point, a robot fired a net at him. Izuku caught the net, spun around, and used it to entangle another robot. Majima would be proud, Izuku muttered, sweat dripping from his nose. But it's not enough. Need more heat. More style. He saw Ida cornered by a three-pointer. The engine-legged boy was trying to kick it, but the robot's armor was thick. Izuku sprinted past. On your left, 4 eyes. Izuku didn't attack the robot directly. He ran up the wall of the adjacent building. When he was 10 feet in the air, he pushed off. He raised the pipe high. A faint blue aura seemed to surround him. Pure focused aggression. Heat action. Essence of the overhead smash. Gravity pipe. Izuku's screams equals devastation. He landed on the robot. The pipe drove through the top armor plate, piercing the battery core. The robot shuddered and collapsed. Izuku rolled off, retrieving his bent pipe. He looked at Ida. You're too stiff, Izuku critiqued, wiping grease off his cheek. Loosen your hips. He ran off before Ida could respond. The 0-pointer. The buzzer was approaching. Izuku had 58 points. He was exhausted. His hands were blistered from gripping the pipe. The adrenaline was starting to curdle into fatigue, and then the ground shook. Boom, boom. It wasn't a robot. It was a skyscraper that learned how to walk. The 0-pointer rose above the buildings, blocking out the sun. It was colossal. Terrifying. It smashed a hand down, obliterating a row of mock buildings. Dust choked the air. The students panicked. Run! It's huge! Forget points. Just survive. The crowd stampeded past Izuku. He felt the urge to join them. His legs trembled. The Majima training emphasized survival. If you can't win, run. Fight another day. Izuku turned to flee. Oh wow! A voice. Faint. Izuku stopped. He looked back. Through the dust, he saw her. The nice girl. Uraraka. She was trapped under rubble. The 0-pointer was looming over her, its tracks grinding the pavement, seconds away from crushing her. Izuku froze. Run, his brain said. Majima would run. This is a losing fight. But then, he remembered something else. Majima, sitting on the vending machine, drinking coffee. You got the eyes of a dragon, kid. And All Might, pointing a finger. You can be a hero. Majima didn't raise a coward. And All Might didn't give his power to someone who ran away. Izuku dropped the pipe. Sorry, Majima-san, Izuku whispered. I'm gonna do something stupid. He turned. He crouched, and for the first time, he reached for the fire inside him. The one for all. He didn't know how to use it. He just knew he had to squeeze his buttocks and yell. Smash! Izuku launched himself. The pavement beneath his feet shattered. He didn't run, he flew. The air pressure blasted around him. He ascended, soaring past the second story, the third, the 10th. He was level with the 0-pointer's face. The robot looked at him. Izuku looked at the robot. His arm was glowing. Red veins of power coursed through his skin. It hurt. It felt like his bones were trying to escape his body. Thug style? No. Breaker? No. Slugger? No. This is hero style. But old habits die hard. Even as he cocked his arm back for a punch, his body twisted. He remembered the spin. The torque. He didn't throw a straight punch. He threw a spinning hook kick, channeling the power into his legs. Majima Pro style. Dragon kick. Crack. Izuku's legs connected with the massive metal faceplate. The force was cataclysmic. The air exploded. The robot's head didn't just dent, it caved in. The shockwave rippled through the machine's neck, snapping massive girders like twigs. The 0-pointer was decapitated. The massive body tipped backward, crashing into the street with an earth-shattering boom. Izuku hung in the air for a second, suspended in the dust and glory. I did it. He smiled. Then the pain hit. His legs were purple. Broken. Twisted at unnatural angles. The recoil of One for All, combined with the ungodly torque of his spin, had pulverized his bones. Gravity remembered him. He began to fall. Oh no. I can't land. I don't have legs, he flailed. I need a pipe. I need a trash can. Anything. He plummeted toward the concrete. Slap. A soft hand touched his cheek. Release. Uraraka, floating on a piece of debris, had slapped him. Izuku stopped falling. He floated, inches above the ground. She released her quirk, and he dropped gently onto the rubble. Ouch, Izuku whispered. Time's up. The siren wailed. Izuku lay on his back, staring at the sky. His legs were screaming in agony. His right arm was bruised. He was covered in dust. He started to laugh. It started as a wheeze, then grew into a full-blown, maniacal cackle. Nyee! I broke it. I broke the big one. The other students gathered around, staring at the broken boy who was laughing at the sky. Is he okay? He just one-shot the 0-pointer. He's crazy. The aftermath. Recovery girl was not amused. You reckless child. She scolded, kissing his forehead. You've completely shattered your legs. And your arm is fractured. What kind of quirk destroys the user's body like this? A cool one? Izuku slurred, high on painkillers and exhaustion. Humph. You're lucky I'm here. This will drain your stamina. The healing process was exhausting. Izuku felt like he had run a marathon. By the time he was bandaged up and cleared to leave, the sun was setting. He limped out of the school gates, using a crutch recovery girl had given him. He felt hollowed out, but happy. He had done it. He had saved the girl. He had smashed the robot. Izuku froze. That voice, standing by the gate, was a security guard. He was wearing the blue Yui uniform, a cap pulled low, but he was leaning against the wall with a posture that screamed delinquent, and he was smoking a cigarette, which was definitely not allowed on campus. The guard looked up. One eye. A familiar eye patch. Majima-san? Izuku whispered. You're working security, part-time, Majima shrugged. Gotta pay the bills. And keep an eye on my investment. Majima walked over. He looked at Izuku's bandaged legs. He looked at the crutch. He frowned. You used the juice, Majima stated. Yeah. To save that girl. And you broke your legs. Yeah. But I took out the 0-pointer. One hit. It was a dragon kick, just like, smack. Majima slapped the back of Izuku's head. Hard. Ow. Why? Sloppy. Majima barked. You broke your weapon. Your body is your weapon, Izuku. If you break the bat, you can't swing it again. What if there was another robot? What if the villains didn't stop? You'd be dead meat. Izuku rubbed his head. I didn't think about that. Exactly. You stop thinking. Majima sighed, exhaling smoke. But, Majima reached into his pocket and pulled out a can of melon soda. He cracked it open and handed it to Izuku. You didn't run away. And that kick? I saw it on the monitors. Good form. Lots of hip. Izuku took the soda. Really? Yeah. Not bad for a rookie. Majima smirked. But don't think you can rest. Now that you got this superpower, everyone's gonna be gunning for you. The training gets harder from here. Harder? Izuku paled. Harder than the zombie apocalypse? Way harder. Next week, knife defense. Blindfolded, Majima turned and started walking back toward the guard shack. Go home, kid. Your mom's making katsudon. I told her to. Izuku watched his mentor walk away. He took a sip of the melon soda. It was sweet, fizzy, and cold. He looked at the setting sun. He was broken. He was tired. He was terrified of next week, but he was also smiling. A real smile. Not All Might's practice grin. Not Majima's manic sneer. Just Izuku's smile. I'm going to be a hero, he whispered. He adjusted his crutch and began the long hobble home. From the shadows of the guard shack, Majima watched him go. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Yo. Kiryu-chan? Yeah, it's me. You won't believe the kid I found. Yeah. He's a total mess. Yeah, I think he's gonna be a legend. Later, Majima hung up and looked at the broken pieces of the 0-pointer in the distance. Mad dog of Yue, Majima mused. Has a nice ring to it. The hallways of Yue High School were wide, pristine, and designed to accommodate students of all shapes and sizes. To the average 15-year-old, they represented the gateway to a golden future. To Izuku Midoriya, they represented a tactical nightmare. He walked with his back straight, his eyes constantly shifting. Left corner clear. Ventilation duct, screwed shut, good. Trash can, standard industrial model, lid secure. It had been 4 weeks since the entrance exam. 4 weeks since he had shattered his limbs to destroy the 0-pointer. 4 weeks since recovery. And 4 weeks since Goro Majima had escalated the Majima Everywhere system to Level 2. Level 2 involved disguises. Izuku flinched as a janitor walked by pushing a mop bucket. He watched the man's hands. No missing pinky. No eye patch. Just a janitor. Izuku exhaled, his breath shuddering. Get a grip, Midoriya, he whispered to himself, clutching the strap of his yellow backpack until his knuckles turned white. This is Yue. The security barrier is legendary. He can't get in here. He's not a student. He's not a teacher. But he was a security guard that one time. Izuku reached the massive door labeled 1A. It was huge, towering over him, designed for students with mutation quirks. Izuku stared at it. He wasn't afraid of the elite students inside. He wasn't afraid of the curriculum. He was afraid that if he opened the door, a man in a Cinderella dress would be waiting to challenge him to a dance battle. He took a deep breath, centered his gravity, a habit beaten into him during the sumo slapdown week, and slid the door open. Don't put your feet on the desk. Ha! Stop telling me what to do, Four Eyes. The noise hit him first. It was the sound of normalcy. Or, at least, anime high school normalcy. Tenya Ida, the stiff bespectacled boy from the exam, was currently chopping the air in front of Katsuki Bakugo. Bakugo, looking like he had chewed on a wasp nest for breakfast, had his feet propped up on the desk. Izuku stepped inside. He moved silently. Thug style, stealth walk. It wasn't a stealth technique so much as a way of walking that prepared you to be mugged at any moment, shoulders hunched, profile minimized. Oh! It's you! Ida stopped scolding Bakugo and turned. The attention of the room shifted. Bakugo's eyes snapped to Izuku. Deku. Bakugo growled. The sound was low, dangerous, but Izuku didn't shrink. In the past, that growl would have sent him stuttering into a corner. Now? His body reacted before his brain did. Izuku's right foot slid back. His hands came up to chest level, palms open, guarding his centerline. It was the brawler's guard. Morning, Kaken, Izuku said. His voice was steady, though his eyes were scanning the windows. Third floor. No balconies. Safe from exterior entry. You. Ida marched over, robotically stiff. You are the one who realized the true nature of the practical exam. I am Tenya Ida from Semi-Private Academy. I'm Izuku Midoriya, Izuku replied, relaxing his stance slightly but keeping his weight on the balls of his feet. And I didn't realize anything. I just react? React? Ida blinked. To destroy the zero-pointer? That requires immense calculation, or just a really big panic attack, Izuku muttered. Hey! It's the plain-looking boy. Ochako Uraraka appeared behind him, beaming. You got in. I was so worried about your legs. They looked like jelly. Oh, Uraraka-san, Izuku blushed, the mad dog persona slipping to reveal the awkward teenager underneath. Why yeah. Recovery girl is amazing. I'm fine. Mostly. My bones ache when it rains, but Majima-san says that builds character. Majima-san? Uraraka tilted her head. Is that your doctor? Something like that, Izuku said darkly. A doctor of pain. Suddenly, the air in the room changed. It grew heavy. The chatter died down. Izuku felt it. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. It wasn't the manic, chaotic aura of Majima. It was something colder. More sluggish. He spun around. Lying on the floor in the doorway, wrapped in a yellow sleeping bag like a monolithic caterpillar, was a man. He had long, messy black hair, tired eyes, and stubble that looked like it hadn't seen a razor in weeks. If you're here to make friends, pack up and leave, the caterpillar said. The class gasped. Who is this guy? Izuku, however, didn't gasp. He assessed. Target prone. Restricted movement. Sleeping bag limits arm usage. Threat level unknown. Potential trap. The man unzipped the sleeping bag and stood up. He produced a juice pouch from somewhere within the folds of the yellow nylon and sucked on it aggressively. It took you 8 seconds to shut up, the man said, looking at a stopwatch. Time is limited. You kids aren't rational enough. He tossed the sleeping bag into a corner. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. A teacher? The class thought collectively. He looks like a hobo. Put these on, Aizawa said, pulling a stack of blue gym uniforms from his desk. And meet me on the grounds. The locker room. The boys' locker room was filled with the sound of zippers and rustling fabric. Man, that teacher is intense, huh? Eijiro Kirishima, the redhead with the spiky hair, grinned as he pulled on his shirt. I like it. Very manly. He looks like he sleeps in a dumpster, Mineta whispered, looking terrified. Izuku was in the corner, changing quickly. He kept his back to the wall. As he pulled off his shirt, the room went quiet for a second. Whoa, dude, Denki Kaminari said, pointing. You're shredded. Izuku looked down. He wasn't bulky like a bodybuilder. He was compact. His muscles were dense, corded like steel cables under his skin. But it was the scars that drew attention. Faint, white lines crisscrossing his arms and back. Bruises in various stages of healing, yellow, purple, green, dotted his ribs. What happened to you? Kirishima asked, concerned. Did you get into a fight with a lawnmower? Training, Izuku said simply. He touched a particularly nasty bruise on his shoulder where Majima had hit him with a frozen tuna last Tuesday. My mentor has a unique teaching style. Is your mentor a bear? Ciro asked. A mad dog, Izuku corrected. He pulled the blue tracksuit on. It felt loose compared to his leather jacket, which he wasn't allowed to wear, or the weighted vest Majima sometimes made him sleep in. He caught Bakugo staring at him from across the room. Bakugo wasn't looking at the muscles with envy, he was looking with confusion. The Deku he knew was soft, weak, breakable. This Deku looked like he had been put through a meat grinder and reassembled with duct tape. What the hell have you been doing, Deku? Bakugo muttered. Surviving, Kaken, Izuku replied, tying his shoelaces. Just surviving. The grounds, the assessment. The sun beat down on the athletic grounds. The class gathered around Aizawa, who looked ready to take a nap standing up. A quirk apprehension test? The class shouted in unison. What about the entrance ceremony? The guidance counselor meeting? Uraraka asked. If you want to be a hero, you don't have time for such leisurely events, Aizawa deadpanned. Yui is known for its freelance traditions. That applies to the teachers as well. Aizawa turned his tired gaze to Bakugo. Bakugo, you finished first in the entrance exam. In junior high, what was your best result for the softball throw? 67 meters, Bakugo scoffed. Try it with your quirk, Aizawa said, tossing him a ball. Do whatever you want. Just stay in the circle, Bakugo grinned. It was a predatory expression. He walked into the circle, stretched his arms, and glared at the ball. Die, he whispered. Then he screamed it. Die! Boom! An explosion erupted from his palm, propelling the ball into the stratosphere. Smoke curled from his hand. Die! Izuku whispered. Who is he killing? Aizawa held up a device. 705.2 meters. Whoa! That's awesome. We can use our quirks as much as we want? This is gonna be fun. So cool. The class was buzzing. But Aizawa's expression darkened. Fun? He muttered. You have 3 years to become heroes. You think it's all going to be fun? He grinned. It was a smile that didn't reach his eyes. A smile that reminded Izuku uncomfortably of Majima when he found a new weapon. Right. The one with the lowest score across all 8 events will be judged to have no potential, and will be punished with expulsion. HAA? The class erupted. Expulsion? Uraraka cried. It's the first day. That's too unreasonable. Natural disasters, big accidents, selfish villains, Aizawa listed. Calamities whose time and place can't be predicted. Japan is covered in unreasonableness. Heroes are the ones who reverse those situations. He swept his gaze over the terrified students. Go beyond. Plus ultra. Overcome it with everything you've got. Izuku swallowed hard. Expulsion. If he was expelled, he couldn't use the UA gym. If he couldn't use the gym, he had to train at the beach. If he trained at the beach, Majima would be there, waiting, with a new system. I can't get expelled, Izuku thought, terror gripping his heart. If I fail, Majima Nizan will make me undergo the Hell Week protocol again. I can't eat raw eggs for 7 days straight. I just can't. Event 1 50-meter dash. Ida and Ajri were up first. Ida used his engines. 3.04 seconds. Like a fish in water, Ajri noted, hopping across in 5.58 seconds. Then it was Izuku's turn. He was paired with Bakugo. Don't get in my way, Deku, Bakugo snarled, sparks popping in his palms. Red eat. The machine droned. Izuku dropped into a stance. Not a sprinter's stance. A brawler's dash stance. Low center of gravity, arms loose. Start. Boom. Bakugo blasted off, using explosions to propel himself. Izuku didn't use one for all. He couldn't control it yet without breaking his bones. Instead, he used the rush-style sprint. He didn't run with long, graceful strides. He ran with a frantic, explosive energy, digging his toes into the dirt, arms pumping wildly but rhythmically. It was the run of a man who had spent 10 months being chased by a homicidal maniac in a snakeskin jacket. Bakugo crossed the line at 4.13 seconds. Izuku crossed at 5.51 seconds. Not bad, Aizawa noted, marking his clipboard. No quirk used. Just pure physical conditioning, Izuku panted, hands on his knees. Safe. No traps on the track. Event 2, grip strength. Izuku took the device. He squeezed. 56 kilograms. Whoa! A student next to him gasped. You have the grip of a gorilla. Mizo Shoji, the multi-armed student, held up his device. 540 kilograms. Izuku looked at his measly 56. Okay, maybe a baby gorilla. Event 3, standing long jump. This was it. Izuku stepped up to the line. He couldn't use OFA to jump or he'd shatter his legs again. Think, Izuku. What would Garomi do? He closed his eyes. He heard the phantom beat of Eurobeat music. He didn't jump forward. He dropped to his hands. What is he doing? Kaminari asked. Izuku spun on his palms, building momentum with his legs flaring out, breaker style. He coiled his body like a spring, used the centrifugal force, and launched himself feet first. He cleared the sandpit entirely. He landed in a crouch, spun, and posed. Cleared! The machine beeped. Aizawa raised an eyebrow. Efficient? No. Effective? Surprisingly, yes. Event 4, repeated side steps. Izuku used rush style. He moved side to side so fast he created a small dust cloud. He was muttering the whole time. Left, right, dodge, weave. Mineta, using his sticky balls to bounce, beat him. But Izuku's raw speed was terrifying to watch because he looked like he was fighting an invisible army. The main event, the ball throw. The sun was beginning to dip. Izuku's score was average. Not terrible, thanks to his insane physical stats. But compared to the monsters in Class 1A, he was lagging. He was currently ranked somewhere in the bottom 5. Midoriya, Aizawa called. Izuku stepped into the circle. His heart was hammering against his ribs. This was the only event where he could truly boost his score. He had to use one for all. But if I use it... Izuku looked at his arm. I'll break it. I'll be useless for the rest of the tests. He remembered the entrance exam. The pain. The recovery. He looked at Aizawa. The teacher was watching him with cold, dry eyes. If I don't do this, I'm expelled. If I'm expelled, Majima. The fear of Majima outweighed the fear of broken bones. Izuku gripped the ball. I just need to control it. Just a little bit. Minimize the damage. He wound up. He channeled the power. He felt the red veins spreading across his arm. One for all, 100%. Smash! He threw the ball. But the ball didn't fly into the stratosphere. It flopped. It traveled about 46 meters and rolled sadly onto the grass. Huh! Izuku blinked. His arm didn't hurt. The power, it had vanished right at the moment of release. He looked at his hands. Where did it go? I erased it. Izuku turned. Aizawa's hair was floating, defying gravity. His scarf was floating. His eyes glowed a terrifying red. That entrance exam, Aizawa said, his voice dripping with disdain. It was definitely not rational. Even if you have a powerful quirk, if you can't control it, you're just a liability. He walked closer, the capture scarf unraveling like a snake. When you tried to save people, you broke yourself. You became a burden. You think someone will save you every time? That's not how the world works. Aizawa's words cut deep. They were true. From what I see, you have no control. You have the same reckless abandon as All Might, but none of the durability. Aizawa stepped into Izuku's personal space. Izuku Midoriya. You cannot become a hero. The words hung in the air. The class watched in silence. In another timeline, Izuku would have trembled. He would have cried. He would have felt the crushing weight of reality. But this Izuku had spent 10 months being told he was weak by a man who then immediately threw a bicycle at him to make him stronger. Cannot become a hero? Majima's voice echoed in his head. Who cares what they think? If they say you can't do it, show 'em your guts. If they erase your power, beat 'em with your fists. Aizawa saw something shift in the boy's eyes. The fear vanished. The awe vanished, replaced by the glint of a mad dog. Give it back, Aizawa said, referring to the ball. We're done. Izuku didn't move to pick up the ball. Instead, his body dropped. his shoulders hunched. He let out a low, breathless laugh. Heh, Aizawa frowned. What? You erased my quirk, Izuku whispered. He looked up. That's a cool trick, sensei. Really cool. But, Izuku lunged. It wasn't an attack to harm. It was a grapple. Thug style, grab. Izuku moved with explosive speed, closing the gap instantly. He grabbed the ends of Aizawa's floating capture scarf. Aizawa's eyes widened. He's attacking me? No, he's securing a weapon? Izuku yanked the scarf, pulling himself toward the teacher. Aizawa, surprised by the sheer audacity, stumbled forward a step. Izuku didn't hit him. He stepped to the side, pivoting around Aizawa's guard, and snatched the ball from the ground in a fluid motion. He stood there, panting, clutching the ball. He was 5 feet away from Aizawa now. You erased my quirk, Izuku repeated, grinning, a nervous, slightly unhinged grin. But you didn't erase me. Aizawa's hair fell back down. His eyes returned to black. He stared at the boy. Most students panicked when their quirk was erased. Some cried. None of them tried to mug the teacher. You! Aizawa started. I still have one turn, right? Izuku interrupted. You haven't expelled me yet. Aizawa paused. A slow, creepy smile spread across his face. Rational. Very well. One more try. Get it over with. Izuku walked back to the circle. His heart was racing. That was terrifying. He just squared up to a pro hero. Majima would be laughing his ass off. Okay. Focus. He's right. If I use 100%, I break my arm. If I break my arm, I fail the other tests. I need to focus the power. Not the whole arm. Just the tip. He looked at the ball. Think like a slugger. Think like a thug. Use the hips. Izuku wound up. He didn't use the standard pitcher form. He used a wild, spinning form, a discus throw mixed with a street brawl haymaker, thug style. Izuku muttered. He spun. 1 rotation. 2 rotations. Building the kinetic energy, transfer the power, to the fingertip. At the very last millisecond, as his arm whipped forward, he activated one for all. But only in his right index finger. Smash! The sound was like a gunshot. A sonic boom erupted from his hand. The ball vanished. It didn't fly, it teleported. The air pressure blasted dust into the faces of the watching students. Izuku stood there, arm extended. His finger was purple. Broken. Throbbing. But his arm was fine. His legs were fine. He turned to Aizawa, clutching his fist, the broken finger sticking out painfully. Sensei. Izuku smiled, sweat dripping down his nose. I can still move. Aizawa looked at the device. 705.3 meters. He had beaten Bakugo by 0.1 meters. Aizawa grinned. It was genuine this time. This kid. The explosion. The class was stunned. Over 700 meters? He finally used a quirk. His finger looks gross still. But one person wasn't impressed. One person was vibrating with a rage so pure it generated heat. Katsuki Bakugo stared at the number. He stared at the boy he had called useless for 10 years. The boy who was supposed to be a pebble on his road to glory. DKU! The scream ripped through the air. You bastard! Tell me what's going on, Bakugo charged. Explosions popped in his palms. He was going to kill him. He was going to incinerate him. Izuku saw him coming. Usually Izuku would scream. He would shield his face. But as Bakugo rushed forward, right hand cocked back for an explosion, Izuku didn't see Kaken, the bully. He saw an enemy using a telegraphed attack. Linear charge. Right hook. Weight forward. Time seemed to slow down. Majima's training took over. Komaki parry. It was an advanced technique. Use the opponent's force against them. Izuku didn't retreat. He stepped into the charge. Die! Bakugo screamed, swinging. Izuku ducked under the swing by a fraction of an inch. He placed his left hand on Bakugo's chest and hooked his right leg behind Bakugo's ankle. Too wide, Kaken, Izuku whispered. He pushed. Bakugo's momentum, combined with the trip and the push, sent him flying. But not just falling, flipping. Bakugo spun in the air, face full of shock, and slammed face first into the dirt with a heavy thud. Silence. Absolute silence. Izuku stood over him, hands raised in a defensive posture. He realized what he had done. He had just dumped Katsuki Bakugo on his face. Izuku stammered, the adrenaline fading. Capture tape wrapped around Bakugo before he could get up and murder Izuku. That's enough, Aizawa sighed, his hair floating again. Don't make me use my quirk so much. I have dry eye. Let me go! Bakugo roared, struggling against the tape. How did you do that? You were quirkless. It wasn't a quirk, Izuku said quietly. It was martial arts. Just a trip. A trip? Bakugo screamed. You flipped me. We're wasting time, Aizawa said, releasing Bakugo. Next event. Bakugo stood up, dusting himself off. He glared at Izuku. But for the first time, there was confusion mixed with the anger. Izuku hadn't used power to beat him. He had used skill, and that terrified Bakugo more than any super strength. The results. The sun had set. The students gathered around the holographic display. The total scores are merely the sum of your numbers, Aizawa explained. By the way, the expulsion was a lie. What? The class screamed. It was a logical ruse to draw out your maximum potential. I knew it. Yaoyorozu clapped her hands. It was obvious if you thought about it. I didn't think it was obvious. Kaminari whimpered. Izuku looked at the board. 1. Momo Yaoyorozu. 2. Shoto Todoroki. 3. Katsuki Bakugo. 16. Izuku Midoriya. 20. Minoru Mineta. He wasn't last. He was safe. Izuku let out a breath he felt like he'd been holding since morning. I survived. Midoriya, Aizawa said, walking past him. Go see recovery girl for your finger. And fix that twitchiness. You look like a fugitive. Why yes, sir. As Aizawa walked away, he pulled out his phone. He looked at the file for Izuku Midoriya. Quirk, one for all, presumed. Combat style unknown. Heavy emphasis on improvisation and street fighting? Notes. Highly resistant to fear. High pain tolerance. Reflexes suggest extensive combat experience. Aizawa smirked. This year is going to be interesting. The walk home. Izuku walked out of the school gates, his finger bandaged. He felt lighter. He had faced Aizawa. He had faced Bakugo. And he had won. Midoriya! Ida ran up to him, Uraraka following close behind. That was incredible. Uraraka cheered. Your finger flick. And the way you tripped Bakugo. You were like a ninja. Indeed, Ida nodded. Your resolve during the ball throw was commendable. I misjudged you. Thanks, guys, Izuku smiled. I'm just glad I didn't get expelled. So, Uraraka asked, walking to the station? Yeah. As they walked, chatting about the day, Izuku felt a familiar sensation. The KSHHH ping sensor in his brain went off. He stopped. What's wrong, Deku-kun? Uraraka asked. Izuku looked at a giant orange traffic cone sitting in the middle of the sidewalk. It was vibrating slightly. Go ahead without me, Izuku said, his voice serious. Why? I have to deal with a cone. A cone? Ida asked, confused. It's a personal matter. Uraraka and Ida exchanged glances but decided not to question the boy who could breakdance and flick sonic booms. Okay, see you tomorrow. They walked away. Izuku stood alone with the cone. I know you're in there, Izuku sighed. The cone flew into the air. Gotcha! Goro Majima burst out, wearing a construction worker's helmet and wielding a giant pipe wrench. Construction Majima is on the job, he yelled. I heard you threw a ball 700 meters. Not bad. But can you dodge a wrench? He threw the wrench. Izuku didn't flinch. He caught the wrench. Thug style. I broke my finger, Majima-san, Izuku said tiredly. Can we do leg day instead? Majima paused. He looked at the bandaged finger. He smiled, a proud, terrifying smile. You negotiated? With me? That's ballsy, Izuku-chan. Fine. Leg day it is. We're squatting all the way to your house. Move. Yes, Saniki. As Izuku began to do lunges down the street, Majima walking beside him criticizing his form, Izuku realized something. Aizawa was scary. Bakugo was scary. The villains were scary, but nothing was scarier than this man. And because of that, Izuku Midoriya was ready for anything,